Chapter 1771, All to Fremons. Western Europe, an island country independent of the European mainland, Britannia. On this day, the castle of the Levant family opened its doors for the first time in a long time. The doors of the main hall of the castle opened, and the sunlight shone in from outside, illuminating a group of figures dressed in combat uniforms. Their clothes were tattered and covered in patches of blood, and some were even limping, supported by their companions. But the sunlight shone on their backs, and each of them carried a proud air. The Knights of the Round Table, the strongest mutant organization in Britannia, had returned to their homeland. At the front of the crowd, a valiant man in dark blue armored combat fatigues and short blonde hair walked forward and sat on the ancient throne. The blood stains on the armor have dried many times and have turned a mottled black. But when he sits on the throne, the natural kingly air that comes from the bones still makes people feel the aristocratic bloodline that has been passed down for thousands of years. Everyone! King Arthur spoke, his voice low and deep, intoxicating. He reached out to the crowd, encouraging them with a kingly smile. We have finally succeeded in capturing restricted Area 6 Atlantis, accomplishing the greatest feat in human history. This is a great feat that no mutant organization in the world has ever accomplished after the end of the world. Now, we are the most powerful mutant organization in the world. Hearing this, the members of the Knights who were covered in scars cheered excitedly. After a long time, they finally managed to conquer Atlantis after many attempts. During the battle with the legendary Deep Sea tribe, they also encountered many life-threatening situations. But now, they have survived. This is a major feat destined to go down in history. Among the crowd, only Lancelot's face did not have such a bright smile. He couldn't help but think of the Nash kingdom in the southwest region. He thought disapprovingly to himself, I was the one who achieved this by being the first to conquer an underground civilization. King Arthur's gaze fell on him and he asked with a smile, Lancelot, you don't seem very happy. Is something troubling you? Lancelot hastily said, No, my great king. I'm very happy. King Arthur nodded, not at all concerned about Lancelot's little worries. He believes in the supremacy of the strong, and the stronger the people under his command, the more he values them. It would be best if everyone was like Lancelot, with the ambition to replace him. But he is also confident enough to know that no one can surpass him in strength. At this moment, Merlin, the court magician, with shoulder-length curly brown hair, who was standing next to King Arthur, bowed down and said with a smile, Upon hearing the news of your return, pupil send his congratulations as well. And His Excellency Mildred Bratt, the king's servant, wishes to speak with you. King Arthur smiled faintly, Oh? Connect him. Soon, a three-dimensional projection of Bratt appeared in the center of the hall, in front of King Arthur. Bratt first congratulated King Arthur on his success in taking down a powerful ancient civilization from the bottom of the sea. And after the end of the world, this is only the second time. However, Zhang-Yi and the others' actions that time were controversial because multiple organizations participated and the Reaper of Love was used, resulting in the destruction of the entire country of Nash. Therefore, at a time when the entire world is under the threat of an underground civilization, King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have undoubtedly achieved a brilliant victory. You don't have to be polite. Mr. Bratt, you didn't come to see me just to congratulate me, did you? King Arthur said with a smile. His face always had a warm smile, an affinity that made people feel dependent and trusting. Bratt then told them about the changes in the outside world during their absence. Fremons has been invaded by a powerful mechanical civilization. I don't know if you're interested in going over there to take a look. Bratt asked. King Arthur smiled and said, We just got back and still need to recuperate a bit. As for the question of whether or not to go over there, he paused for a moment, and then said with absolute certainty, There is no doubt about it. His tone was firm and carried an unquestionable air of authority. As a king, in the face of this chaotic end of the world, it is one's duty to lead one's people to fight against the crisis of extinction. This is my unshirkable responsibility. And they, who had already reaped great rewards in the process of exploring the underground civilization, naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity. Brat nodded and then stated the main purpose of his visit. His Excellency the President said that if you plan to go to Fremons, there is something he would like to ask you. King Arthur's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light, and then he asked with a smile, "Oh? What did His Excellency the President say?" Brat said, "We know that you have a major conflict with Chaos, of the Huashu Kingdom. This time, he is also going to Fremons. His Excellency the President said that if you encounter him in Fremons, he hopes that this time, you can show mercy and not clash with him for the time being. Because at present, he is one of the subjects of our membership test." King Arthur had just returned from Atlantis and did not yet know the details of what had happened in the outside world during that time, but he had a general idea. But so what? His gaze sharpened when the word chaos was mentioned. "Are you talking about the person who killed my brother Bowser and then used his corpse as a weapon, Chaos?" Brat smiled helplessly. "If I'm not mistaken, it should be him." King Arthur's smile turned cold. "That guy, Bowser, his talent is too weak, and he will die on the battlefield. I knew this day would come sooner or later. However, as his clan elder, it is a disgrace to the Levant clan that he was humiliated in such a way. I can never forgive this. There must be a nightly duel between him and me." Upon hearing this, Brant tried to persuade King Arthur. "I hope you can wait a little longer. Nowadays, he is also a world-class mutant. To be honest, he may become a member of the Knights of the Dawn just like you." King Arthur interrupted him directly. "In that case, it is all the more necessary for me to test him." He rested his arms on his knees and smiled as he looked down at Mildred Brat in front of him. "Don't worry, I'll be merciful when I strike. If he really has some ability, I'll consider sparing his life. After all, as king, I will consider the greater good. But if he's too weak, I'll have no choice but to kill him. After all, weaklings don't deserve to stand beside me. The world situation is changing rapidly. Fremon's unusual movements and the sudden appearance of a strange polyhedron in the sky have made countries and international forces worry about future changes in the world. They must make a choice. Either they can strictly guard against attacks on their own forces by the underground civilization, or they can go to Fremons and join in this grand banquet. Danger always goes hand in hand with opportunity. If this opportunity is missed, then the winner of this game will reap huge benefits, which will put them far ahead of other countries and organizations. Don't look at the Huashu Kingdom, which suffered heavy losses after the battle, but the high-level mutants have all gained considerable origin and their strength has been greatly enhanced. Zhang Yi only brought the people around him with him, and broke into the territory of Brahma, so that the 8 tribes and Brahma's army did not dare to pursue. This is proof enough. At this time, the Brahma Bhavara temple. The 8 tribes' heavenly dragon gathered here, and Anand, the Brahma prophet with the title Emperor Indra, led the crowd in completing the sacrifice to the Trimurti. Behind him, the leaders and cadres of the 8 tribes gathered here, dressed in magnificent high-caste clothing. This sacrifice is very important, because Emperor Indra will prophesy here to decide whether they should go to the Fremons. And now, the 8 tribes' heavenly dragon urgently needed to solidify their position in the hearts of the people of Brahma through a great victory. After all, they had been given a severe facelift by Zhang Yi during the last invasion of the southwest region. Not only had they become a laughingstock internationally, but even domestically, the strict blockade had not been able to completely block the spread of the news. Many people had learned of the fact that Emperor Indra had avoided fighting Zhang Yi and let him leave. Emperor Indra stood before the crowd and activated his ability with his eyes closed. The ability to see the future was his supernatural gift, but it did not come about after the cataclysm. It was innate. It seemed that he could naturally see some hazy scenes of the future. Although he could not see the future completely, being able to glimpse changes in one corner of the world was enough to allow Brahma to take the lead through clues. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes and turned around, revealing a smile in the expectant gaze of the crowd. The Trimurti has given me guidance. This time in Fremons, we will reap great rewards. The mutants of the 8 tribes let out relaxed smiles and nodded happily at one another. Excellent. We really need this opportunity to show the world how powerful Brahma is. Merely being the king of South Asia is no longer enough to fulfill our ambitions. Emperor Indra, please lead the way this time. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. And our dragon army. The crowd chattered, their eyes full of eagerness, hoping to follow Emperor Indra to Fremons. But Emperor Indra smiled, his gaze only flicking over a handful of faces. This was going to be a major battle, and it wasn't the number of people going that mattered, but their strength. The ability index was one of the criteria. They also needed to have rich combat experience and a clever mind to deal with the various contingencies in unfamiliar territory. He finally reached out and pointed at 2 people in the crowd. This time, 2 people will be acting with me. Azura and Garuda. Everyone's attention immediately focused on Garuda, Gao Changkong, and the topless, tanned, but strong and strange-looking man next to him. A mutant in the crowd frowned and said, "We can understand taking Azura with us. But what's the deal with Garuda?" Azura always had a fierce and resentful light in his eyes. Among the 8 tribes, he was second only to Emperor Indra in strength. Back then, he also competed with Emperor Indra for the title, but unfortunately he lost in the end. Gao Changkong's eyelids drooped, praised the Trimurti, and "Thank you, Emperor, for your favor." A special gleam flashed in his eyes. One of the 8 tribes, Gandharv, stood forward and said discontentedly, "Emperor, do you really want to take Garuda with you? After all, he is a foreigner." Gao Changkong was able to join the 8 tribes entirely because his strength had reached Epsilon. However, everyone understood that he was an outsider. Even though he had supposedly abandoned the dark side and joined the light, he still had some reservations. Seeing that he was taking him with them on such an important mission, everyone felt that it was not entirely appropriate. Emperor Indra wore a gentle smile on his face. This is the will of the gods. Bringing them along is the most appropriate choice. Of course, he knew that Gao Changkong was an unstable factor. But precisely because of this, his heart had always been on guard against this guy. Perhaps due to his abilities, Emperor Indra often had the feeling that he could not read Gao Changkong. Now that they were going to Fremons, he was going to take Gao Changkong with him. Only by keeping him under his watchful eye could he feel at ease. Moreover, if they encountered danger, there was no doubt that this foreigner would be the best choice as cannon fodder. However, there was one thing that he did not know. After Gao Changkong arrived in Brahma, he had an ability that he never revealed to anyone. It was the reincarnation theory of the meditation seal, in the heavenly dancing treasure wheel. The Snow Country Express train continued north, passing through several major regions before reaching the edge of the northeast region. Emerging from underground, the light in front of them became brighter, and what met their eyes was a vast and desolate snowfield. The sun was nowhere to be seen in the sky, only gray and even somewhat pale clouds reflecting the earth. The whole world seemed to have fallen into a dead silence, like a gray screen after failing a video game. Deng Shintong glanced at the map marked with satellite coordinates and said, "We're almost at the Beilongjiang River." His hand was on the communication device, as if sending a message. Soon, he said to Zhang Yi, "The people who are supposed to meet us are nearby." Zhang Yi nodded slightly, not particularly concerned. The Snowpiercer was unable to cross the border and stopped at a station in front of the Beilongjiang River. Zhang Yi and the others got off the train. The biting cold wind blew against them, whistling like countless mountain demons howling in the air, sending shivers down the listener's spine. Zhang Yi had no doubt that if they weren't wearing the highest-tech cold-resistant combat suits and armor, the cold wind alone would be able to slice through the skin of ordinary people.